Hey guys, and welcome back to the second part of our demonic experiences video. I know you guys have been waiting a long time for it, and we have been waiting a while to release it to you. We've wanted to get this out a lot sooner, a few weeks ago, but we had a lot of technical issues and a lot of physical issues as well that stopped us from doing it. Now we're here. We did promise that we would probably get Ricky in here, but he told me that he did not want to be involved in this. Not really involved, like, per se. He just didn't want to be in this video. So that shows you how uncomfortable sometimes when we talk about it openly, but we like getting the story out there, at least I do, to tell people about it so they can understand and maybe fight it off themselves if they're going through the same thing. So, to recap, it was basically all the things that have happened to you while you lived in Utah. In the first video, it was like all the scratches that have happened to you. The first night when you came over here and I realized what was going on inside the whole supernatural thing with you and what was on you, because she started choking in her sleep and woke up, told me about the nightmare that she had of people choking her, or the shadow choking her. I told Ricky about this, and Ricky started reading more of his Bible and then started to research more about it and decided to tell me that we needed to get it out of her ourselves, because regardless if you can go to a pastor, you can go to a someone religious, you can go to do whatever you need to do or something to get this thing exorcised. Usually people think of a guy with a white collar and black suit to exorcise people in the Catholic, priest. But what we believed is that we could do it ourselves. So I guess, what was it, June 12th? No, January, June 12th. It's not come yet. Also, I would like to point out, and I'm so sorry I hadn't pointed this out already, but yes, I'm baby-faced. This is the first time they're seeing me baby-faced. I look ugly.
You do not.
I look so ugly.
You don't look ugly.
I look too fresh-faced. I need a beard to help me make me look sexy. And we are also doing the video in my parents' house because we're doing laundry, so we decided to knock two out of the ballpark. So it came to January 12th, and it was a Saturday. We were all hanging out, getting drunk. I forgot what necessarily happened to make you go inside. Do you remember? No?
I really don't remember much of that.
We were drinking, we were having a good time. Something made Jess say that she needed to go to the bathroom. She was gone for quite a while. Ricky and I started talking about what was going on with her and how we were going to have to do it. He said, by the way, you should probably go check on her, because it's been about an hour now that we were out in the garage without her. So I went inside and I see the whole freaking living room is dark, and I see her just on her phone laying on the couch in the middle of the darkness. And I was like, that's kind of weird. I wonder why she's doing that. I went up to her and I said, hey, is everything all right, babe? And she goes, yeah, everything's fine. And I said, okay. I try to help her, I try to help her get into good spirits, because I hate seeing her like that. No matter what I did, she would not smile. And I remember touching her hand like that. And I'd say, are you ready to go to Disneyland? Because we were going to Disneyland in a few months and stuff like that. And I touched her hand and she went and shrugged away from me. And I was like, okay, this is not Kairi. This is not what she does. She doesn't usually, yeah, right?
I think we've addressed my name in two different ways.
I know, I apologize. I have to bleep you out.
It's fine.
I don't know if you remember, you don't remember much of that night anyway. After I realized this, I decided, okay, I'm gonna have to hold back on it, because I know this isn't her, this is whatever it is taking over her. So I kind of backed off, and she said, I think I'm gonna go for a drive. Which a lot of you would think out there, you say, oh my God, she's going to go on a drive while she's in this kind of state. Hell no. Which is what we thought originally too, or I thought originally. But then I was like, you know what? She's not alone. I know she's going to be safe. That's what I told Ricky when I went out, because she said she was going to leave. So she started packing her keys and she was going to go and take a drive. Went out and told Ricky that, and Ricky completely freaked out. He was in total fear that I just let that happen. And he tried to go out there and stop her, but she was already gone. And he started bawling. He started physically crying that you were not there, that something may happen to you. And I kept telling him, I kept saying, don't have fear, buddy. Nothing's going on. It's one of the key things to know that's important when you're dealing with that stuff, is that they feed off fear. And that's one of the things they really want to do to you, is make you scared of them. It's okay. She's going to be all right. He started really freaking out and shaking so bad that he looked at me and said, Tyler, I don't know what's coming over me. Because I was praying for him. I was. This is where I know, keep an open mind. We do get in a little religious aspect of it because I pray, we do stuff like that. I prayed over Ricky, and every time I prayed over him, he would shrug away and go away, and he said, I have no idea what is wrong with me right now, Tyler, but I need you to help me. Because whatever it is really doesn't like you praying for me. And it really hates it. He got so annoyed when I did it. So I had to put my hand on his shoulder and then put my hand on his head. And in a calm manner, in a calm attitude, I prayed over him. And at the end of it, it took about 30 minutes to an hour, I think, to where he actually was okay. He started shaking. He was physically like shaking so bad. And finally, he came back to and he says, I don't know what happened, man, but every time you prayed around me, I was getting so annoyed. But after that, he told me he felt so much peace when I did this for him, and whatever was on him, demon or not, because I do believe that there are several demons out there, like depression, greed, stuff that gets on you like that, you know. And whatever his was, we got it off of him, and we started talking about it, and about what we could do whenever Jess got there, because she was still out driving at this point. I think it was 2 hours later, we were talking amongst ourselves. My dad came out there, he talked to us for a little bit. That's when Kairi came home and walked into the garage and just kind of sat down like nothing happened. And so we were like, okay. And so she started taking out a cigarette, she started smoking. We were like, okay, something's wrong with her, because she usually didn't smoke like that, like huddled up and smoking. Finally, my dad had left the garage after talking to us, and we just both sat down, Ricky and I, looked at Jess, and Ricky asked Jess, how you doing, darling? And she looked at, you remember that? What'd you say?
I didn't say anything that time, I just kind of shrugged.
Yeah.
And then he goes, is there anything that we can do for you? And I said, make it go away.
Yep, you said make it go away. That's the last thing you remember, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was cause enough for Ricky and I to look at each other and nod. And so we began our way of exorcising the shadow that was over her, the demon. I don't quite remember how it was. All I remember is feeling completely free. Like, I felt so at ease, that it was so peaceful and gracious. I felt so happy when we did it. Ricky led us into a prayer over Kairi. Once we got a little bit far into it, I'm talking not 10 minutes into the prayer, we got on our hands and knees and we placed a hand on Kairi, on her head. Ricky put it on her head. I was able just to put it on her head and her back. The very first time that Ricky and I had ever actually heard from the demon itself. This is where it gets, where I say every time I do these videos, I want y'all to keep an open mind. Just keep an open mind when I say this thing, literally, after we did this for 10 minutes. All that Kairi would do is sit there and shake and occasionally laugh at us while we did this. She would go and laugh. And that's where we got to think that, wow, yeah, she's no longer here. It's the thing, it's the demon here. And then it looked up, and it tried to look up at us, but it couldn't. And it was still shaking, and it said, you know, when I had her go on that car ride, I did not want her to come back. That was one of the only things it really said to us in a full sentence like that. And once it said that, Ricky and I made it full force that we prayed onto Kairi. This thing was obviously trying to harm her. I mean, they've always tried to harm her in a way. These things really wanted to kill her on this ride, so we were going full force. She laughed and laughed at us for the first couple of minutes. She would try to push our hands away. It really did not like our hands being on her. It even got to a point, we got further on into it, and that's what it was. It was no longer laughing, it was just shaking at this point. And then it started pushing our hands away, and then after that, she was out. She was completely out. Her eyes rolled in the back of her head, and she was knocked out. And there was even a point where Ricky put his fingers to Kairi's neck, to her jugular, and we felt no pulse. She was gone. Like, you were gone. And we just continued praying. We continued on with it. We knew we were getting close. We knew we were making some kind of progress, because whatever it did not like what we were doing. And it really didn't like our hands, because our hands were sending some sort of power through her. She was out for the longest time, and finally, we got to about, I'm talking 2 hours into this exorcism. We finally had some sort of sign of life. She finally came back to us, and not really fully back to us, but she was moving, and we could tell she was there. She was coming back, but it was still clinging on to her. So we said, in the name of Jesus Christ, leave this body, leave this vessel. It got to where Ricky started talking to Kairi and asking her, Kairi, no, please come back. Come back to us. The voices that you hear are the voices of your friends. Do not listen to the enemy. Do not listen to it. Come back to us and accept the name. Accept the light. Once she finally came back to us, that was amazing to see her eyes open. The way we got to know if it was gone at that time was that she would say the name of Jesus Christ, and she did. We finished that night off, and you ended up being good, right? After that night. Because we went to Whataburger, we ate, like we were so celebratory that we actually defeated this thing. We were excited. And it was done for about 3 days, and she had another nightmare. Excuse me guys if it's weird for me to talk about this. I'm trying to remember. It was a long time ago that this has happened, so I keep on thinking about all the events that have occurred, and it's still hard, especially for Kairi, because she, all this stuff happening to her really affected her memory. She ended up waking up that morning and telling me that she had the same nightmare that she had when she was choking in her sleep. The shadow looming over her with the 3 associates that it had holding her down. That made Ricky and I very concerned. We were so confident the first time that we actually succeeded, that we actually defeated this thing, but it turned out all we did was weaken it. And we weakened it pretty good, because it didn't do a whole lot after that. But it was the week after that. You doing good, darling? You okay? It was the week after that is when we had another drunken night. We all had a party, same as the first exorcism, we had a party. Kairi had a few shots. Few too many shots. She still can't take the same amount of shots today. Vodka shots. She did end up puking. Vomiting.
On myself.
On yourself. We had to change her clothes and stuff like that. At that point, Ricky and I were pretty sauced up too, to where Ricky looked at me and he says, it sounds so non-religious for us to be so hammered when we do these things, but it's true. It works so great when we actually are. Ricky looked at me while he was holding her head, and she was out like a light after she threw up on herself, completely knocked out. And he looked at me and says, Tyler, we'll never get another chance again like this, to where we can actually get rid of this thing.
I was blackout drunk at that point.
Yeah, you were blacked out. You were gone.
Totally gone.
And we could tell it was still on her. We could still feel it in the air. You could feel this heaviness that was still lurking. So we continued. We commenced praying once more over her. Did all the stuff we did last time. Ricky spoke in tongues. I don't know if many of you know who that is, but it's a language that speaks to the soul in Christianity. It's when it sounds like gibberish to a normal person, but you can actually understand it when you listen into your soul. You could hear Ricky speaking in tongues over Kairi. I keep saying her real name, and I'm so sorry. I continued praying, and we kept asking God to give us these gifts to remove this evil, to remove this demon from her. And it gets to a point where you have to say its name. And we say, you speak to God and you ask him to come down and fill you up. And once you feel that he's there, once we felt that he was there, we started speaking to the demon itself. And we said, evacuate this body, leave in the name of Jesus Christ. You have no power here. Whatever comes to mind while you're praying is what we prayed. And it got to a point, she was out like a light. When we were about 30 minutes or an hour into the prayer, she barely laughed. She would move, she would wiggle in our arms as we put our hands on her. She would just wiggle pretty good. But she was gone. Like, after 30 minutes to an hour, she was really gone, but she really started wiggling when we put our hands on her. And then it just got to where We were saying its name over and over again, saying to get out of her, get out of her. We just hear her go, that was the only sound she would make, was that. We kept praying, continued pressing on, and then it said, she was doing this, she did, and then she said, you said my name wrong. And so we tried a different form of saying its name. We tried all the forms of saying its name and really didn't like that. Started really wiggling her, and we really wanted to keep her head up because we didn't know if she was going to vomit on herself, and we really didn't want her choked on her own vomit. We tried to hold her head up. We would try to, and she would keep trying to push it down and say we can't.
At one point, I do remember you guys holding my head up, and I'm like, no, I was like, if I throw up, I don't want to choke on my vomit, so I like put my head down and then I moved it over just in case.
Yeah, she would huff and try to vomit. She would cough too. That was one of the things that we knew. It was expelling it. Is because every time we tried, she would cough, and not cough up blood like the problems she's had, but just cough. She would like she's trying to get something out. I have to continue the prayer because Ricky looks at me and he says, Tyler, you're going to have to continue this prayer. I can't do it. He says, I don't know what's going on, but I can't do it. And he starts getting in the fetal position over there next to Kairi and holding himself like this. After I keep continuing my prayer, I put my hand on him as long as with my hand on Kairi, and I continue to pray for both of them now. This time I put my prayers into both. Ricky is over there holding his head, and every time I'm praying, he is freaking out and holding his face like this, rocking back and forth, scratching his head. After I finish, I'm finishing up this point. We're not hearing anything from Kairi. We feel her pulse. At one point, we felt her pulse and she was gone again. But we felt her pulse, she came back. That was when Ricky had his whole event happen. But there was nothing from Kairi at this point. She was having a normal heartbeat. She was breathing normally. She was still shaking. And I was expelling the rest of it. Ricky had a whole new set of problems going with him, but he finally gathered his thoughts, stopped getting in the fetal position, and continued the prayer. And so once we kept going, I remember us asking Kairi to come back to us, asking her, come back to the light, show us you're here, come back. There was a song. There were songs playing on the radio because we were drinking.
There's a long
black train coming down the line. That song from Josh Turner, There's a Long Black Train, came on the radio. There's a long black train coming down the line.
That was like the last thing that I remember. I just remember like leaning my head over and I hear that song and I start singing along with it.
She started singing along with it, and that's how we knew it's a good song that we knew that we were like, she's back. I mean, she's back to us. There's a long black train coming down the line. That's pretty much what finished that exorcism for Kairi. So we got her up. We ended up bringing you to bed. And once we brought you to bed, Ricky was still outside, and I tucked her in, still outside in the garage, and I went back out to the garage to talk to Ricky, where he was pacing back and forth, and I said, what's wrong, buddy? We both, I feel completely, like the first exorcism, I feel completely free, and I feel completely happy, without a worry in the world, without a care. And Ricky tells me, he says, I think something got onto me. I think something transported from me to Kairi. Or from Kairi to me. He said, I'm going to have you pray over me too. It's going to be very awkward. He said, but I'm going to have you pray over me. So I was like, okay, that's fine. And so I start praying over him. I start trying to do the same thing we did. But we're not sitting down this time. He's standing up. We're both just standing up, and I'm putting my hand on his head, and he starts doing the weirdest sound. When I get about 10 minutes into it, he starts cracking his jaw. So you hear this sound like he's grinding his teeth very hard. Like I can't even replicate it. You just heard his jaw popping in and out of socket. He would shake. And he really didn't like my hand being there, and he tried to push my hand off, and at the end of it, he even did push my hand off. And with tears in his eyes, he said, I think some things we just have to do alone. So I said, okay. And he went to bed. After that, Kairi was completely fine, weren't you? Like, she had no problems. We think this thing completely left her. In fact, she even kept having dreams that it did transfer onto someone else. She had a dream that it transferred onto me, and we had problems with me, but the nightmares ended. Ricky, on the other hand, had some problems with it. We believe that the demon that was on Kairi ended up transferring onto him because it saw his heart, his things that he's gone through in life, all the hurt that he's had, that it really wanted to get onto him next. He had nightmares. Not the same nightmares as Kairi, of course, but nightmares that he would die, that he would be shot by a shadow figure, or he would see a shadow or see things inside of his apartment that he lived in at the time, and he believed it would watch him while he was alone. It was about a month later, I think, for him, that I ended up having to get him drunk. And we had to do the same thing. I had to get him drunk and convince him that it was the night that we had to do it. It was the night that we had to end this whole game. And so I get him drunk. We end up doing more things. I anoint my hands, my feet, and my head in oil, which is a religious thing for a lot of you who don't know. And we start the prayer. He has a voice memo for that occasion. I don't know if he still has it somewhere, but he should have a voice memo of the entire exorcism. Did the same thing throughout the whole time. I would put my hand on his head and pray over him. I would ask God to come in to my body, use me as a vessel to not only exorcise the demon out of him. I was sick and tired of having to exorcise him and have him transfer onto something else. I asked God, I said, I am tired of this. Right now, I really want the demon destroyed. I asked him, please put his head on a spike in front of hell to let all the other demons know what happens when you mess and torment a creation, God's creation. I kept praying for that. Put his head, and I put the name of the demon in there on a spike. Destroy him, disembowel him, crush him with your archangels. Come down here and help your armies defeat this thing. I continued praying, and Ricky never laughed like Kairi would do in the middle of the exorcism. I think it was more scared this time. I think it knew the power that we held to how it would react to it, so it did not like it at all. When I continued on, it started taking my hand, trying to push it off his head. It just kept trying to push his hand off my hand off his head. It even tried using him against me at one point, and they had him look at me and say, Tyler, please get your hand off my head, please. Please, I'll be good. I swear I'll be good, please. He kept saying it like that, and I said, do not use my friend as your pawn, demon. You use him again, and I swear I will use the full wrath of God to come down. And I would tell it to that whenever he would try. He would try to touch my hand, and I said, you cannot touch my hand. My hand feels like fire to you. I ended up finishing up the exorcism after the hour and a half because I felt Ricky coming back. He got knocked out. Then he came back. Jess walked out for a second. She's just going to go blow her nose, so don't worry. He put his hand on my knee and he said, Tyler, we have put his name on a spike. He does not remember that. And I asked him the next morning if he remembered ever saying that. He said, no. I don't remember anything, he says, that whole night. It was a weird thing. That was the last exorcism that we had performed, is after we got that. After we did that, we have never heard from that particular demon again. We have never seen or had any sign of him ever again. But unfortunately, after moving into the new apartment, we have had some more recent things go on. So yeah, that's basically the exorcisms that we've had, and right now I'm going to end this video here, and we're going to have a part 3 for when we talk about the experiences that we are having now inside our own apartment. To be continued, because we are still having to deal with it, but the 3 that we had a problem with now are the same 3 that were the henchmen to the big one. In her dream, she pictured 4 people being in the room while she was getting held down, and the big one would be choking her on the table while the other 3 laughed. And these are the other 3 that I believe are haunting us now.
I'm sorry, that was
What?
that was just weird timing. I coughed right when you said choking.
Oh, choking. So yeah, that's all for this video, guys. We're gonna end it up. We're gonna get it out through the week so you guys can enjoy it and figure out what's going on, help us out in any way you can. That's fine. We'd like to hear your opinions. Like I said, keep an open mind. Anything y'all have to say, please put it in the comments section and let us know. Do you have anything to say, baby? Oh gosh. I'm sorry that poor Kairi couldn't say too much in this video. We've had so many experiences with it that it's gotten to all of us. Like I said, we don't have any fear for them. We aren't scared. We aren't terrified in any way, because in the end I know whatever happens, they'll be gone. Especially with this strong girl. She's tough. So yes, I hope you guys like and subscribe if you liked the video. And I'm sorry again for it being so serious and we're not doing the funny joking things that we usually do, but that's what these videos are for the demonic experience. We don't have a whole lot to joke about. So I guess that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.